Sometimes we think that we are so intelligent, we don't need God. But God says, I depose kings as well. And this is why I am so humble. I'm a humble man. I really am. And don't feel bad with me saying it. Moses said it too. Being humble means you are always in touch with your flesh. Knowing that you are fragile. That everything happened to you was because of divine intervention, not because of human intelligence. That you constantly remind yourself that you don't know anything except what he allowed you to learn.
Hi, welcome to The Legacy of Purpose with myself, Sharissa, and my brother, Myles Jr. We're in part one of a new series called The Power of Planning and Change.
We want to thank everyone for the overwhelming responses. Let's take a couple of questions. First one is from IG user Ola Jumokept. If I mess your name up, I am so sorry. But his question is, did you ever disagree with your father on anything or question his opinion about any issue? You know, that's a great question. Everyone thinks I just kind of went along with what my father would advise or what he would suggest. But him and I used to butt heads all the time because he had his way of doing things and I had my way of doing things. And it created a lot of conflict in the beginning. But I realized that, you know, my father just wanted to really coach me and mentor me into being a better leader.
Here's another question from Miss Renee31 on IG. What is your mantra in life? You know, that's a very complex question because, you know, there's so much in life that I want to do. There's so much in life that keeps me going. But I think for me, just accomplishing whatever it is that I want to do, whatever it is, I just want to have fun doing whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm good to go.
Do what makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, no one can make you happy the way that you can. So I encourage everyone to do the same. So we'll take another question from Instagram user Dory Sochi. His question, or her question is, did your dad have any unfinished books that you would still like to be published? Yes, he did actually. We have a lot of material that we can use to create books, and my dad was in the process of writing a few books. So we do plan on working with our publishers and even amongst ourselves to get those books written and out to you guys.
So we're still here talking about planning and change. Time and change are the only two guarantees. Power is the ability to change things. Wisdom is the insight to make the right change. You must stay dependent on God to protect yourself. Time changes everything. Time heals everything. Time reveals everything. All three of those dynamics are important to me because I have lived them and I'm still living them. Now let's tune into a message from my father on time and change.
Planning and change are usually always together. But I want to talk about understanding strategic thinking as we go through 2013. Please write this first statement down. The most powerful forces on earth are time and change. These are the two most powerful forces on earth. It's time and what? Change. Why? Here's why. Because the only things that are guaranteed in life are time and change. 7.2 billion people on earth cannot avoid these two things. Whether you sleep under a bridge, on a cardboard box, or you live in a penthouse in a condominium, these two components will affect your life. Whether you are 9 years old or 99 years old, these two components will affect your life. Whether you have no money or you've got too much, these two items will affect your life. So time and change are the only two things that are guaranteed. When something is guaranteed, you have to learn how to manage that. That leads to my next point. 2013 is declared the year of change and new beginnings. The concept of the word 13 in Hebrew, the numbers of those letters in Hebrew, 13 actually means new beginnings. It means new phase. It has to do with change. And I believe that this year, which has already begun in many people's lives, there's going to be not just normal change, there's going to be powerful dimensional changes in everyone's life. Things are going to change so drastically that you will not end the year the way you started it. For some of you, you may not make it, for example, to the end of the year. Traffic is going to be that great. Some people that you started out with may not be alive at the end of the year. That's the kind of changes. And don't take it lightly, because some people you started out with last year, they were not here at the end of the year. But this year is going to be even multiplied. This is the year of change and new beginnings. The good news is that God himself is going to be involved in the change, which means that he is going to initiate changes that he determines is good for you and for humanity. How do we know that God initiates change? In the book of Genesis, chapter 8, verse 22, write that down, please. He says, as long as the earth remains, there will be seed time and harvest. Then there will be cold and heat, summer and winter. Day and night will never cease. God is not suggesting something. He is declaring something. There will not be anything permanent on earth. Winter will not last forever. Summer cannot endure. In other words, change is inevitable. I have designed life in such a way, God says, that change will always happen. Guaranteed. How do we know? Daniel chapter 2 verse 20, God says, praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. These two are important words. Power is the ability to change things. Wisdom is the insight to make the right change. God has both. Verse 21 says, he changes times and seasons. No matter what the European Economic Community plans, God says, what I want will happen in Europe. With all of the intellectual collective wisdom of the intelligence of Europe, they still cannot solve the economic problems. This week, the announcement came out that unemployment in Europe is now going beyond 12%. You need to imagine how many people that is. Millions, no work. You need to also know that in spite of all of our scheming and our political maneuvering, the Bahamas itself is a victim of changes we can't stop. I understand that the government is being advised in the Bahamas by the IMF that they must cut public employment by 10%. Now, I want you to think about this. The largest employer in the Bahamas is the government. And the IMF says, if you want to borrow more money, you got to cut some things, including people. Nothing is worse for a politician than to have to let people go. And this is why they are hoping certain things stay in place. And they keep pumping this idea about people being employed by this illegal activity, because they don't want the people to lose jobs, because they represent votes to those politicians. And yet they got to lay some people off. I know they're going to try and delay it. But we're not alone. Every country is doing the same thing. God says he changes times and he changes seasons. So the best thing to do is to get on God's side. And can I say to the countries, get on God's good side. Listen, if God says he changes times and season, and you are on his side, then he'll make sure the change is in your favor. The next statement says what? He sets up kings. Today, the kings are the political machinery. He's the one that puts people up in power, and he's the one who what? Deposes them. I want to just warn political leaders and religious leaders and civic leaders to be careful how you stand on your soapbox talking. You see how fast you can fall? Some of our political people gone in a week. Why? Because when you start acting as if you own everything and you are in charge, God said, I will depose you. The president of Venezuela, Mr. Chavez, won the election 2 weeks ago. He cannot perform inauguration because he's too sick to come to the very place. God can set you down in the middle of a political victory. Take a deep breath. This is heavy. Here's a man who won the election and can't go to the inauguration. Cancer. It's important to stay humble the higher you go. It's important for you to keep telling God, I don't know anything about this. I trust you. In other words, keep being dependent to protect yourself. And this goes for every one of you. Sometimes we think that we are so intelligent, we don't need God. But God says, I depose kings as well. And this is why I am so humble. I'm a humble man. I really am. And don't feel bad with me saying it. Moses said it too. Moses wrote, I am the humblest man in the world. That's in the Bible. In other words, being humble means you are always in touch with your flesh. Knowing that you are fragile. That everything happened to you was because of divine intervention, not because of human intelligence. That you constantly remind yourself that you don't know anything except what he allowed you to learn.
You know, there are seasons in our lives where it is inevitable that we face hard times. But the key is to endure and know that it will pass. Most people tend to focus on the pain and not the process. But God told us to cast all our cares on him. So it is not our job to bear the pain, but to look to God, our Creator, as a source of help. So let's tune in to the rest of the teaching for today.
Should we pray before the staff meeting in my office? Oh, you better pray. And if folks don't like it, tell them stand outside. We're going to pray because we hired you, and Lord may destroy this company to get rid of you. I ain't going to let you destroy my company. Some of y'all looking funny. You realize when Jonah disobeyed God, the whole ship was going to be in trouble? This is the spirit of God's power to change things. Look at this. Make a note of this. Nothing is as permanent as change. Nothing. Secondly, change is constant. It never stops. Thirdly, change will happen to everything, including you. You are 1 year older right now. That includes your lungs and your kidneys. Change is inevitable. Change is also the principle of life. That means everything that is alive will change. And even things that are not alive will change. You know, a lady came to me. She says, I came to the Bahamas for the last 10 years, and I missed 4 years. And I came here this past month, and everything is different. The airport is new, she said. What happened to the old airport, she says. In other words, even the things not alive are changing. The way the river runs down the mountain is wearing away the mountain. You go back to that mountain 10 years later, and the river is wider. Change. is in creation. It's part of life. So here is the question then. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. It says, to everything there is a season, and to every purpose under heaven there is a time for it. To everything there's a season. How many things have a season? Everything. This is one of the best news I ever got in my life. When I understood this, I was a teenager, and it changed my life. When I understood that everything is a season, let me tell you why. If you're having a bad time right now, it cannot last. If you cannot find a job right now, that is only a season. If your business is going in the wrong direction, it's a seasonal slide. If nobody wants to marry you, that's only a season. There's going to come a season when everybody want to marry you. You got choices. If you have no money right now, the good news is I am seasonally broke. Tell your neighbor, it's only for a time. That's the good news. And that's why we are always reminded, never make a permanent decision in a temporary problem. Seasons are important. Seasons guarantee change. They also guarantee hope. They give you hope. You know, if you are in the middle of winter right now watching this program up there, like Brother Carlos is, he's watching us live up there, and they're in the Midwest up by Ohio, man, it's freezing right now. Well, if you know, the good news is you don't throw away your summer clothes. In the middle of a snow, you keep your summer clothes. Why? You got hope that this snow will not be here in a few months. Seasons give you hope. Thirdly, nothing remains the same, and that means seasons are always temporary. And the key to life is outlasting the season. Seasons give the incentive to plan for the future. And that's what we want to talk about in these next 2 weeks. The power of planning, because seasons are always moving. Therefore, you plan on how you want them to move in your life. Never respond permanently to a temporary problem. You know, there are people who got a divorce because they were going through a temporary storm. I mean, it seemed as if their wife or their husband went temporarily insane. They started doing dumb things to the point where you decided, I can't handle this. And you make a decision. Now, you know, divorce is, for the most part, permanent. And once you make it, it's like termination. There are people sitting in this room who went through a storm as well in their marriage. And they were that close to a divorce. They got some advice and they hung in there. Why? Because they were told this is a storm. This is a temporary hurricane. Your spouse is temporarily insane. Don't jump ship. Believe me, every good marriage. How long have you been married, Pastor Henry?
45.
45 years. You don't want to hear the stories they can tell you that they don't tell nobody. And he married my sister. I know he got stories. That's my eldest sister. I love my sister. You all leave her alone. But everybody is unique. They are different. And there will be tension. There will be clashes. But you don't make a permanent decision with a temporary problem. You must understand, young people, that everything is a season. Managing change. Also, change creates 4 types of dimensions. First of all, write this down. There's change that happens to us. Then there's change that happens around us. Then there's change that happens within us. But most importantly, there's change we make happen. Now, every human being got to make a decision which one of these will rule their lives. Do we sit down and let change just happen to us? Or are we just watching change happening around us? Or are we aware that change is happening within us? Or are we going to be those proactive people who make sure that we affect what happens to us? Change also produces 4 types of people. They are in this room. First of all, there are people who watch things happen. Now, let me say something about change. This is important here. Not all change is improvement. You used to weigh 128. And now you changed. And for some of you, that's not an improvement. You lost your wardrobe. You lost your ability to climb up steps fast. You even lost the quality of health that you had. Change doesn't mean improvement all the time. But the problem is, without change, there can be no improvement. So you have to decide what to do with change. Change will happen. And if you are not careful, it could be destructive. So you have to determine, what kind of change do I want in my life? And I want you as a young person, as a mother and a father, as a business person, to think about your company even, or your family, or your educational pursuit. What kind of classes do you want to take in college this year? What kind of grades do you want? What kind of relationships you want to have in your life? Who do you want to drop and who do you want to pick up in your relationships? What kind of people do you want to associate with? Where do you want to travel that you've never been? What are the books you need to read you never read before? The changes come with choices.
To order today's complete message in a 4-part CD or DVD set for your love gift of $50 or more, please visit our website, monroeglobal.com, or call the number on your screen. Or for your love gift of $150 or more, you can get today's package deal, which includes the Power of Planning and Change 13-part CD or DVD set, plus the accompanying books, Overcoming Crisis and the Principles and Benefits of Change. Call the number on your screen today. Our team is standing by to assist you.
That was another awesome teaching by my dad on planning and change. And this is just the beginning of this series, so you don't want to miss it.
Yes, and if you want to get the series of Planning and Change, you can log on to our website at Munroe Global, where it's available for you to purchase.
So please join us next week for our 2nd episode on planning and change, and also for our special guest, Dr. Marquis Spoon. A little over a year ago, we established the Myles and Ruth Munroe Foundation, which was formed to continue the works of the Munroe family. My parents had a great big passion for people, and my brother and I still share the same passion for people and serving their needs. So the foundation does that in different ways. The goals of the foundation are to teach, train, mentor, and give assistance to the less fortunate. The foundation also established a gala, which is the main fundraising event of the foundation.
One of the main initiatives of the foundation is establishing the Munroe Institute. This is what we want to use to continue and grow on the works and resources that my dad has left behind. So we want you to partner with us. Log on to our website, find out how you can get involved, and assist us in reaching the world. Kingdom citizens, this is Myles Munroe Jr. It's time for you to literally walk in the footsteps of Jesus. Join my sister and I and a host of Global Kingdom citizens as we visit all the historical biblical landmarks of our faith. The Myles Munroe's Holy Kingdom Learning Experience, founded by our parents over 20 years ago, was designed to increase your understanding of the scriptures through an on-location teaching experience like none other. We will take you to the baptism place of Jesus on the Jordan River. We will visit the Temple Mount. We will see Armageddon and Nazareth. We will take a boat ride on the Sea of Galilee like the disciples. We will rediscover the Beatitudes and the place where Jesus taught them. We will experience the original church service in the upper room. Then, study with us at the Garden of Gethsemane and have communion at the site of the empty tomb of Jesus. All this at a reduced cost for this year. Increase your kingdom knowledge with this advanced, on-location, life-changing experience. Go to theholylandkingdomexperience.com to reserve your space today.
Africa is one of the most beautiful and richest continents in the world. How many of you would love to visit Africa? In 2016, my brother and I started the Explore Africa tour that went very well. We want you to experience the birthplace of humanity and see what the culture has to offer.
This year, our tour takes place September 29th to October 9th. If you want to join us, log on to our websites to find out the cost and itinerary for this year's tour. We hope to see you there. Sometimes, the plans we make and the action items we set to achieve our ultimate goals need to be revisited. We have put forth a great effort and set targets to meet, but oftentimes we need to rework and rethink. It does not mean that we have failed, but instead we are fine-tuning what it is we are trying to achieve. For me, I tend to balance a lot of things on my plate. All are a part of the larger goal, but each has its own place on the priority list. Revisiting that list is essential sometimes. As I go through my goals and plans, I find myself making adjustments on a daily basis. I have to remind myself that I need to ensure I am doing what I am doing because it is what I am called to do, and not what I feel an obligation to do. Your vision is never supposed to burden you. It may sometimes scare you and cause you to worry about it, but it should never be a burden or have any negative effect. So reworking and refocusing on what we ideally need to do is sometimes most important. We may lose friends, partners, and supporters along the way, but it's all a part of the process to getting it right. It won't happen overnight. As much as we may like it to, it's just not the case. And as easy as that would make the process, it takes time and effort to see a vision through. So be patient, and when necessary, rethink, rework, refocus.